Welcome to the Nightly 5 podcast with Ben O'Shea.
In today's show, disgraced AFL legend Barry Cable fronts a Perth court on alleged child sex offences. Plus, Immigration Minister Andrew Giles is in more hot water. We'll cross to Canberra to find out why Albo hasn't cut him loose. In New South Wales, a breakthrough in the search for the mystery mum. And there's also been a breakthrough in the search for the remains of Samantha Murphy. And I'll leave you today with the latest on the Trump hush money case. In our top story today, an AFL legend in court on alleged child sex offences.
Well, now to breaking news on disgraced footballer Barry Cable, who was arrested today by police in Perth.
Disgraced former football star Barry Cable was arrested in Perth last week, accused of sexually abusing a 9-year-old girl during the 1960s. Today, the former North Melbourne Rover arrived at Perth Magistrates Court dressed in a dark suit and sunglasses, flanked by his lawyer, leading Perth barrister Tom Percy KC. During the brief hearing, the one-time Australian Football Hall of Famer only spoke to confirm his name and to enter a not guilty plea. The 80-year-old Cable has been charged with 5 counts of indecent dealing of a child under 13 and 2 counts of unlawful carnal knowledge of a girl under 13 years old. The alleged incidents are said to have taken place in Perth between January 1967 and April 1968. Cable would have been 24 at the time and at the height of his footballing prowess, winning waffle premierships in both those years. It came almost a year after a judge ruled in a civil court that on the balance of probabilities, Cable sexually abused 5 other children during the 1960s and 70s. Judge Mark Heron awarded the lead plaintiff damages of more than $800,000 in that case, but Cable did not pay a cent after declaring bankruptcy. The alleged victim in the new criminal charges is not one of the women who told their harrowing stories during that trial in the district court last year. The West Australian understands she came forward with her allegations after that action was made public. Cable was last year stripped of his Australian Football Hall of Fame honours following an illustrious playing career in the 60s and 70s for Perth and East Perth in the Waffle and North Melbourne in the VFL, where he went on to coach in both leagues.
The Immigration Minister, Andrew Giles, will be fighting to keep his job this morning with revelations he was warned about the implications of his controversial decision that allowed a host of dangerous criminals to stay in our country.
Another day, another immigration scandal for the Albanese government, and it's Immigration Minister Andrew Giles. Here to unpack it is Federal Politics editor Katina Curtis. Katina, what mess has Andrew Giles found himself in now?
Well, it's really an ongoing continuation of the messes of the last 6 months, Ben. We actually have heard a couple of times today now from Andrew Giles directly. He's done a few media interviews. He has said that he is told the department in no uncertain terms to work as fast as it can on reissuing this direction, ministerial direction that tells the AAT members and also departmental decision makers what they need to think about when they're thinking about whether visas should be cancelled. He says he's given really clear directions about exactly what I want to see and to make sure that the intent, which is to keep the community safe, is stands up in the legalistic words of these things. He's also been re-examining the cases of a bunch of people, mainly, I think starting with the ones that have been reported in the media of these people that have committed often quite horrendous crimes, had their visa cancelled and then had that cancellation overturned in the AAT. He has now re-cancelled 8 visas of those. That seems to have happened. One of them was done between about 8 a.m. this morning and when I saw him on television shortly after midday. So to give you an idea of he's working through the paperwork in between, I imagine, fielding media queries. And so there's that. We've also had Border Force officials up in front of estimates talking about the electronic monitoring of the cohort of people who we have spoken about a number of times who were released after that High Court decision last week. We had some figures around at least 2 convicted murderers and 26 people who had been charged with sex offenders not being electronically monitored. Andrew Giles said in one of the interviews today that it was not possible, the law didn't allow them to just whack ankle monitors on every one of those 153 people. Like basically everyone's individual circumstances have to be considered. So that's state of play where we are now. I'm about to head into question time, and I expect it to be quite fiery. Again, the coalition has really targeted Andrew Giles all week during question time.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that targeting. And it's also, a harsh spotlight from the media as well, because the immigration portfolio can really only be described as a dumpster fire over the past 6 months, with Andrew Giles standing smack in the middle of it. How tenable is his position right now? Albo still seems to support him. Why is that? And what will it take for Albo to say, you got to go, bud?
Oh, a lot of questions there. I think, let me take one of them. Why is Albo still standing in supporting him? I think, look, the Prime Minister's character, long-standing, has been that he values loyalty. He places a very high priority on loyalty, and Andrew Giles is a friend and a factional ally of his. The PM does have a bit of a streak of stubbornness about him, and the government is quite proud of the fact that it's gone 2 years and it hasn't had to go to Yarralumla and change a single minister yet. So they really
regardless of how bad they do.
yeah, I mean,
it's a strange thing to be proud of.
There's a few that you might point to. You'd be like, why is that person still there? But anyway, so I think that sort of is a bit of an insight into the thinking. What would have to happen to make him be sacked? I don't know. Look, the fact that he's still standing by it, I guess it depends on what else comes to light in the cases come out. We've obviously seen the allegations about the detainee who was allegedly involved in that home invasion in Perth. Like that was pretty bad, seen as pretty bad over here, but the minister's still in his job, so it's kind of hard to say. I guess it depends how much further these things escalate.
Yeah, like it does feel as though maybe the thinking was, well, we've had a bit of bad luck in this portfolio, but things will turn around. But that just hasn't happened, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. We'll wait and see what happens. Question time is certainly going to be fascinating, maybe not so enjoyable for Andrew Giles, but it's always enjoyable to have you on the show. Federal Politics Editor Katina Curtis, thanks as always for sharing your insights on the Nightly Five.
Thanks, Ben. Good to talk.
It's hard to comprehend the desperation a woman would have faced to give birth in secret on a muddy riverbank. That's what police suspect happened in Sydney's inner west after a resident found a placenta and umbilical cord. But the mother and baby remain missing.
Forensic tests of a placenta and umbilical cord found on the banks of the Cooks River in Earlwood have uncovered new information about a missing baby at the centre of a desperate search in Western Sydney. Forensic testing has confirmed the baby is a boy, and Strike Force Wagonia detectives are continuing to investigate the incident. As well as the gender of the child, tests were expected to determine the gestation of the baby and how long the discharge had been at the river. Authorities are still searching for the baby and his mother after the umbilical cord was found by a dog walker at about 4:30 p.m. on Monday. Police are yet to confirm whether the baby was actually born on the riverbank or elsewhere. Despite making the difficult decision to scale down their search in the area on Tuesday, police have reiterated their concerns today for the mother and the baby's well-being, asking her to attend the nearest hospital to receive urgent care for herself and her child. Anyone with CCTV vision or information about the incident, or who may have noticed a distressed woman or pregnant woman in the area of Lang Road, Wardell Road, Tennant Parade and Ewan Park at Earlwood and Hurlstone Park, is urged to contact Burwood Police or Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000.
Good morning. 7 News understands a phone found in farmland south of Ballarat during a renewed search for Samantha Murphy belongs to the missing mother.
Detectives from the Missing Persons Squad have called off their search of a Buninyong location after fresh evidence sparked hope that the body of missing mum Samantha Murphy may be found in regional Victoria. On Wednesday, police recovered a mobile phone while scouring the banks of a dam on a property where Mrs Murphy is believed to have been near, based on phone ping records. Victoria Police deployed an excavator and the dog squad to aid officers in their search, and police were seen hugging and celebrating when they discovered the device in the muddy dam bank. It's understood revealed that the phone recovered is the phone that belonged to Mrs. Murphy. Sources told 7 News that the phone does belong to Mrs. Murphy and that this is a significant clue in the investigation. Mrs. Murphy has not been seen since she left her rural home for a run on the morning of Sunday, February 4. 22-year-old Patrick Oren Stevenson has been charged with murder in connection to Murphy's disappearance and is reportedly not assisting police.
The jury in Donald Trump's hush money trial has finished their first day of deliberations. As jurors retired, the former US president railed against the case, saying Mother Teresa couldn't beat the charges.
Donald Trump's New York hush money case is now in the hands of the jury, which will decide whether he'll become the first former president convicted of a crime. If your understanding of what happens next is based on movies and TV shows, here's a little rundown of what we can expect. How long it will take to reach a verdict? Well, short answer, no one knows. What we do know is the jury finished their first day of closed-door deliberations without reaching a verdict. The 7-man, 5-woman panel plus 6 alternates are due to return to the New York courthouse at 9:30 a.m. local time, which is 11:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, but it's unclear when they might reach a verdict. It could be an hour from then, or it could be a week. Their task is deciding whether Mr. Trump is guilty of any of the 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Prosecutors say Trump falsified the records to hide reimbursements to his then lawyer Michael Cohen, who paid porn star Stormy Daniels $130,000 in the final weeks of the 2016 presidential campaign not to air her claim that she and Mr. Trump had sex a decade earlier. The former president and presumptive Republican nominee this time around has pleaded not guilty. He denies any sexual interaction with Miss Daniels and argues the payments to Mr. Cohen were correctly designated as legal expenses in company records. Jurors need to be unanimous to reach a verdict of guilty or not guilty on each of the 34 counts Trump faces. If they unanimously find him guilty, then he gets convicted on that count. If they unanimously find him not guilty, then he gets acquitted on that count. If they cannot reach a unanimous verdict, though, they inform the judge that they're stuck. And in that case, the judge instructs them to have another crack. And if that doesn't work, a hung jury is the end result, which would mean the case was declared a mistrial and the prosecutors would have to decide if they want to try Trump again. The felonies Trump is accused of committing could carry a prison sentence, though it's not legally required. And legal analysts are split on what penalty could get handed down, though many say at Trump's age, which is 77 years old, and lack of prior criminal conviction, it means a jail sentence is unlikely. And that, folks, is today's show. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join me tomorrow on the Nightly 5.
The Nightly 5 podcast is brought to you by 7 West Media. For all these stories and more, head to thenightly.com.au, helping you get in front of tomorrow.